Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tado Jayam Mudire Nashtaprayesha Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Narayana, which is the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yodha Pravishya Mamavacha Imam Prasuttam Sanjeevayati Akhila Shakti Darasvadamna Anyam Sahaja Charana Shamana Dukadi Prana Namo Bhagavate Saya Dubhyam तस्मादकन्मिकतविक्लव ईश्वरस्य सर्वात्मना मयि गृह्णामि यथा मनीषम् नीचो जया गुणविसर्गानुप्रविष्टः पूयेत येन हि पुमानानुवर्णितेन ओम विष्णु सरस्वती देवी Thank you, Prabhuji. We are reading from 1 6, 36 and 37. Both the verses we are reading. Almost concluding of this chapter. Conversation between Narada Muni and Vyasadeva. सर्वं तद्धितमाख्यानं यत्पृष्टोऽहं त्वया नघ जन्म कर्म रहस्यं मे भवताश्चात्मदोषणं सर्वं all that idam this akhyatam described yet whatever Krishna asked by aham me tvaya by you anaga without any sense janma birth karma activities rahasya mysteries me mind bhavataha your cha and atma self toshanam satisfaction. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.G. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O Vyasadeva, you are freed from all sins. Thus I have all explained. Thus I have explained my birth and activities for self-realization as you asked. All this will be conducive for your personal satisfaction also. Purport. The process of devotional activities from the beginning to the stage of transcendence is duly explained to satisfy the inquiries of the Vyasadeva. He has explained how the seeds of devotional service were sown by transcendental association and how they gradually develop by hearing the sages. The result of such hearing is a detachment from worldliness, so much so that even a small boy could receive the death news of his mother, who was his only caretaker, as a blessing of the God. At once, he took the opportunity to search out of the Lord, and since a Hajj for having an interview with the Lord was also granted to him, although it is not possible for anyone to see the Lord with mundane eyes. He also explained how, by execution of pure transcendental service, one can get rid of the fruitive actions of accumulated work and be transformed his material body into a spiritual one. The spiritual body alone is able to enter into the spiritual realm of the Lord. No one but a pure devotee is eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. All the mysteries of transcendental realization are duly experienced by Radha Muni himself. Therefore, by hearing such an authority, one can have some idea of the results of devotional life, which are hardly delineated even in the original text of the Vedas. The Vedas and Upanishads, there are only indirect hints to all this. Nothing is directly explained here. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam is the mature fruit of all Vedic literatures, tree of literature, Vedic trees of literature. Text 37. Sutovacha evam sambhasya bhagavan Narado vasa vishrutam amantrya veenam ranayan yavaudadrichiko munihi. Sutta Goswami, Vacha said, evam thus sambhashya addressing Bhagavan, transcendently powerful, Narada Muni, Vasavi named Vasavi Satyavati, Sutam son, Amantraya inviting, Veenam instrument, Ranayan vibrating, Yayo went, Edarchayate, wherever willing, Munihi the sage. Translation and purport by Divendriya Seji Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sutta Goswami said, thus addressing Vyasadeva, Srila Narada Muni took leave of him and vibrating on his veena instrument, he left to wander at his free will. Every living being is anxious for full freedom because that is his transcendental nature. And this freedom is obtained only through the transcendental service of the Lord. Illusioned by the external energy, everyone thinks that he is free, but actually is bound up by the laws of nature. Conditioned souls cannot be free, they move from one place to another, even on the earth, and what to speak of one planet to another. But the fully fledged free soul like Narada, always engaged in chanting the Lord's glory, is free to move not only on the earth but also in any part of the universe, as well as any part of the spiritual sky. Just imagine the extent and unlimitedness of the his freedom, which is good as the Supreme Lord. There is no reason or obligation for his traveling, and no one can stop him from his free movement. Similarly, the transcendental system of devotion service is also free. It may or may not develop in a particular person even after undergoing all the detailed formulas. Similarly, the association of the devotee is also free. One may be fortunate to have it, and one may not even have thousands of endeavors, even after thousands of endeavors. Therefore, in all spheres of devotion service, freedom is the main pivot. Without freedom, there is no execution of devotion service. The freedom surrendered to the Lord does not mean that the devotee becomes dependent on every aspect. Surrender unto the Lord through the transparent medium of the spiritual master is to attain complete freedom of life. Srila Prabhupada, Transcendental Purport, all the devotees will be welcome for the morning program. And I think you people are very dedicated and devoted. Really, I'm very much enthused and really inspired by all your dedication to chant every day in the morning. And in spite of all your hectic material schedules, so you are able to dedicate time for Krishna. This is really Krishna, is especially in Damodar month. Speaking Bhagavatam is so wonderful that even one half of the verse, Bhagavatam, Padma Puran says that is equal to reading the 18 Puranas. So now we are discussing two verses. That means we have read 36 Puranas. Two times we have read the 18 Puranas. So much benefit is there. So we don't worry about the results because we are not interested in the fruits, but we are trying to purify our consciousness. Krishna Bhakti. So we are discussing here in this verse, the first verse, 36th verse, it is mentioned that first thing is Dvaya Anaga. Anaga means here Narada Muni is concluding his realizations and his whole pastimes he is giving to Vyasabhava. Narada Muni, before we discuss about Narada Muni's appearance, we'll discuss briefly about Vyasa Bhagavan, Anaga, because the sinful one. That is very important to meditate upon. So, what has happened? That Vyasa Bhagavan is not an ordinary person. He is the incarnation of Lord Krishna. There is no literary incarnation, we call it. Literary incarnations, he has been created only to write all Vedic literature. So he was the son of Parashara and Satyavati. He was born, and because Satyavati wanted served Parashara Muni, and then because the Parashara Muni was very happy with her, and he gave her the child. Vyasa Bhagavan was born, so he was not an ordinary living entity. And also in the whole lifetime, we can see that he was not wandering here and there. He was always deliberating. Bhagavatam tells that he was always deliberating on the spiritual subject matters and started writing the Vedas, Upanishads, and then Tantras. He wrote so many 108 Upanishads. He read Vedanta Sutras. He wrote commentary on Vedas. So and then he wrote all the Puranas, 18, 17 Puranas he wrote. So many literatures, and then Mahabharata he wrote. So he was always working on the transcendental subject matter, except once Satyavati called him, his mother called him that because of the problems in the Astinapura, where because they could not produce any child, and Vichitravirya and Chitrangada both died very young without producing the children. So at that time, so they were worried. They were married to Ambika, Ambalika. So the Vichitravirya, Chitrangada died very early, and Vichitravirya also died. He was married to three girls, Amba, Ambalika, Ambika. Amba really left because she was in favor of Salva. So she went, thinking of Salva, she was interested. So she left. These two people were married, and but however, due to some health problems, Vichitravirya left his body immediately. And because of that, there were no children and there was no progeny to continue the kingdom. So at the time, Satyavati asked Bhishma Mahadev to marry Ambika Ambala, but he said he has taken a vow of celibacy and he will not marry. And Vyasa Bhagavan was invited. Vyasa Bhagavan came and then he met Ambika. Ambika was so much afraid of Vyasa Bhagavan because he was matted locked hair and all. No? So she was afraid, and therefore the child was born. That child was Pandu. And then the next girl came, Ambalika. She met Vyasa Bhagavan and she see that person was so, it was not palatable. He was not a young person but he was having beard and matted lock hair, and he was not looking so. So she closed her eyes, and because she closed her eyes, Dhritarashtra was born blind. And then what has happened? Then she was worried that the two children are like this, so she wanted to produce a good child. And finally, Shudrani was no, Shudrani, whose servant maid was called. The servant maid was not at all affected by it because she was very transcendental person, and therefore Vidura was born, who is none other than the Yamaraj. So we know the past time. Otherwise, he was never engaged in material affairs at all. He was completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness. He was always absorbed in spiritual relationship. He was never involved in the material affairs and activities at all. And that's why he is called a sinless person, Anaga. So, suppose, therefore, it is very important that we should also adopt, always be absorbed in Krishna, not to get deviated from the Vedic hymns. And also here, you see Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra had the darshan of the Lord. And Krishna gave him the darshan and told him, give as a messenger. He came and he asked for 5 villages. But he refused. Because why? Because all the pious activities were completely exhausted. Bhagavatam tells us 319, Shatapunya Lesha. Last farthing, little farthing, whatever is that, the pious deeds were exhausted. And therefore, Dhritarashtra completely obeyed his son, Duryodhana, and did not give even a 5 villages to them. And Krishna was, in the Mahabharata, it is mentioned, Krishna was requesting him that suppose if you give the 5 villages, they can be happy with the 5 villages, and you run the Anstapur, and imagine the group, you imagine the power which you are going to generate. So like Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, Sahadeva, Yudhishthira. Imagine the power. These people are enough to conquer the entire 3 worlds, and you will be living undisputed for so many thousands of years. Nobody will dispute you. And this is the moment. And then he told Duryodhana and he told the Dhritarashtra. But because they have committed sinful activities, they have committed all the sinful propensities, and therefore they were not able to accept the words of Krishna. And therefore it is mentioned that if you are Shatapunya Leshaha, that means we are last falling in the pious deeds, we are very sinful, then we cannot hear the inner voice of Paramatma. Suppose we are taking some decision, we take wrong decisions because we don't consult the Paramatma who is sitting within our heart. So if you do nice devotion service and if you are sinful, then the main sin which comes is propensity to commit Vaishnava Aparadha. And this is the most important. It is called elephant, Mata Hata, they say. That means it is basically mad elephant offense. And this, once it destroys the creeper of the devotional service, and there is no recourse. Krishna is not going to allow you into the kingdom of God, and therefore we should be very much on guard, dealing with the living entities. And always we should be respectful and humble in our dealings with the devotees. It is very, very important so that we don't commit this sin. So this is what we understand. And up now we go into the Narada Muni. And that's why Narada Muni, Narada Muni is calling him Jignajitam Aditam. He says that you are deliberately fully well on the Vedas. Your knowledge is obtained, so fully obtained. He is glorifying it. So that's why his knowledge is unparalleled. So that's why we have to understand. Now, here in this verse, the first verse, 36th verse, Janma Karma, it is mentioned nicely. Janma Karma Rakasyam. So this is very important. So the birth and activities of the pure devotees is mysterious, and you must understand it is as transcendental as the Lord's transcendental activities. Janma karma chame vidyam. You know the verse 4.9. Yovam abodhi tattva tattvataha tattva adeham punajanma neti mameti suvachana. Just like the devotees' pastimes, birth and activities are one transcendental, just like Krishna's activities, activities. So this is the very, very important point, subtle point we have to understand. It is mentioned nicely in the Bhagavatam that the devotees' birth and activities are non-different from Krishna. It is mentioned here 3.13.4, third canto, 13th chapter, 4th verse. It is mentioned, Srudasya Pumsan Chuchida Shamasya Nanan Jasasuribir Iditatortaha Tadat Gunan Shavanam Mukunda Vadar Vindam Nudayeshu Yesham. It is mentioned, person who hear from the spiritual master with great labor for a long time must hear from the mouths of the pure devotees about the character and activities of the pure devotees. Pure devotees are always absorbed. Guna Anushravanam. They are always a Mukunda Padarvindam. The pure devotees are constantly thinking within their hearts the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead who awards direct liberation. So it is mentioned very nicely in the purport also. Prabhupada mentioned constantly thinking about the devotees, however, realize the presence of Lord, and therefore they can always see the lotus feet of Lord within their hearts. Such pure devotees are as glorious as the Lord. They are in fact recommended by the Lord as more worshipable than the Lord himself. And that's why you can see Prahlad Maharaj also says, I want to, he has the darshan of the Lord, Narasimha, and then he says, no, how can I leave the service of my spiritual master? So, he says. So that is what we have to understand that. And there is one small why the pure devotees are more important. I will tell you a small story, and that will understand from the South India, but the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. Or his name is called Vaduganambi. He is a great devotee of the Lord, but he is a great devotee. He is the disciple of Ramanujacharya. So what has happened? His duty is every day evening 8:30 in the night to boil the milk and give the milk to Ramanujacharya. At that time, what happened? Lord Ranganath from Srirangam, he used to come through the streets where the ashram of Ramanujacharya was there. So every day, the Ranganath used to come there. And then this person, this Madhuganambi, his nature is that my Bhagavan, my Lord is Krishna. My Lord is Ramanujacharya. I don't know anything about Ranganath. So I don't nothing relationship with him. My relationship is with only my spiritual master. So he was serving hot milk, and then the deity will come and go. He will not hear. So all the disciples of the Ramanujacharya, they were saying, why this fellow is behaving like this? He is not hearing, he is not having darshan of the Lord, which is an offense. Why is he doing this offense? And they were making big noises. And somehow or other, this message went to Ramanujacharya. Ramanujacharya understood the mind of the disciples. So he wants to teach them the lesson. So he wants to teach them how this Guru Bhaduganambi has got Guru Bhakti. So what has happened? One day he did the pastime. He spoke to Ranganatha, please do the pastime to make this my other disciple understand the value of Bhaduganambi. So Bhaduganambi value has to be understood by these people. So Long Ranganath heard because he is hearing from the pure devotee. Ramanujacharya is non-different from Lakshmana incarnation. So he was a pure devotee of the Lord. So immediately Krishna Ranganath said, definitely I will do for you. So when it is done, the next day, evening, what has happened? He was boiling the milk and he gave the milk ready for Ramanujacharya. In the meantime, Ramanujacharya was also there. He came and had the darshan of the Lord and the milk was ready. And then the Ranganath Ratha which carrying the Ranganath, then stopped at Ramanujacharya's house. So they did every day they do the puja and they do the arati and all. So they do the arati and they also use coconut and whatnot and even banana and all, no? With betel nut and whatnot. So they did the offering and then everything was done. And then they tried to move the rath. The rath is not moving. So they were very upset what to do and all. They were crying, they were telling what to do, what to do. And then at the time, Ramanujacharya said, please call Vaduganambi, let him have the darshan of the Lord and it will move. And that's what is. These people, disciples were perplexed. They said that they don't have any attraction for Ranganath. How come Ranganath will yield to this? But somehow they went inside and they called Vadaganami. Vadaganami said, yes, milk is ready. I kept ready for Ramanujacharya. And since my spiritual master is calling me, I will come. He has told me to come, I will come. So he came. He came and have the darshan of the Lord and the Lord moved. And also, he was so much infatuated. Gurudeva Tatma Bhagavatam tells that he took his spiritual master's life and soul so wonderfully. It is mentioned that what he used to do is he used to get the Saligram Shila of Krishna, which Ramanujanacharya has been for worshipping the Lord. So what he will do on the top of the box, he will keep the slippers of Ramanujanacharya. Then Ramanujan said, no, 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 why are you keeping the slippers on my head? Why you keep my slippers on the head of Lord Krishna? It is an offense. You are doing a direct offense. He says, that is your problem. My guru is you. So your lotus feet is more, your slippers Your Padaka is non-different from Krishna for me. So that is my ultimate goal. And he used to keep like that. Ramanuja just used to laugh and says, please don't do this offense. He used to tell. But still he says, I will do like that. And then Ramanujacharya used to keep the slippers out. And then every time he will keep it on the top. So there is a transcendental discussion between them. So much he was dedicated. And therefore, the worship of the pure devotees is non-different from the Lord. That's what I want to say. So here, activities of Narada. So the activities of Janma Karma, activities are transcendental. We will see how it is. So his Janma was, Bhagavatam tells that, 3rd canto, 12th chapter, actually first Lord Brahma produced the Sanat Kumaras. The 4 Sanat Kumaras, they disappeared and they said they want to do only devotional service. They said they want to go. They want to become impersonalists and they don't want to do anything. They don't want to procreate. And then he produced the 10 sons and the 10 sons, Atri, Muni, Pulas, and all these, Angira, Jashi, all these were produced. And they started the procreation, everything was going on. And then he produced Rudra, who was to create the Hanilation and all. Everything was done. But however, he was not satisfied, Brahma. He says, in this material world, I created the progeny for this. For Annihilation, I have created this. But however, something has to be done for the Bhakti. Bhakti, I have not produced anybody. So then he meditated and deliberated. On deliberated intelligence, Krishna, Narada Muni came as Bhakti Avesha avatar. That's what we say now from the page of Chaitanya Sadamata. Bhakti Avesha. Because, why? Because Bhagavatam tells us, Anuraktasya, he was completely attached. He was always attached to Krishna and the pure devotees, the Vedantas. He was so much attracted towards them. We saw in the previous classes also, 1, 5, 29, 30 also, we saw that he was so much attracted towards the transcendentalists and to Krishna. So much attached. So that's the reason. And therefore, his activities, his birth was also transcendental and is not ordinary. And therefore, if you see his pastime, he was born as a servant maid, was son of servant maid also. He was attached to Krishna 100%. And then afterwards, the Bhagavatam tells us very nicely. We will discuss that also. How he attained the transcendental body of transcendental spaceman by pure devotional service he executed, which is nicely mentioned in the previous verse. We will discuss this one by one. And also, we have to understand that the Janma Karma, if you see Janma is like that, okay, is pure and transcendental. And then his karma activities, you will see that his main activity is that, there are 2 stalwart devotees, Dhruva and Prahlad Maharaj. Both they became devotees of the Lord. Because of his touch, he touched them and they become pure devotees of the Lord. And they were such an exalted devotees that they are mentioned in the page of the Bible. Not only that, he also approached 10,000 sons of Prajapati Daksha. They were supposed to do some fruitive activities and they were supposed to do some tapas, Bhagavatam 6th canto. Then what happened when they were supposed to do this tapas? Narada Muni went and said, why you are doing tapas? Why are you wasting your time on these material things? Let us go to do devotion service. Because if you do, if you are in this hellish planet, you cannot come out of it. If you are in the heavenly planets, you will enjoy the bhoga and you will not come. But if you go to the Mrityu Loka, then you have to go from here to there. You may have to go to material world, spiritual world, down spiritual world, no, material world, Swarga Loka, and then go to the Patal Loka. You will be going on jumping like monkeys in a tree. Why are you wasting your time? Please don't waste time in the Bhagavatam. Please don't waste time. As per Bhagavatam, you should not waste time. You should do Bhagavad Dharma. Go and meditate on Lord Vishnu. That is the glories. Then they understood and they become devotees. And then Daksha became very angry. He produced another 10,000 sons. And that 10,000 also he converted them to devotional service. And then Prajapati Daksha became very, very happy, very, very unhappy that all the 20,000 sons become devotees. He cursed him that you will not stay in one place. And therefore, he is a transcendent statesman. He cannot stay in one place. He took the curse as a blessing of the Lord. Just like he took the curse, just like he took the mercy of Krishna that his mother was being bitten by a serpent. He accepted this curse also. Bhagavatam says Badam. Badam means he accepted the curse. So this is what we understand. The activities, his dharma is also transcendental, his karma is also transcendental, and it is mysterious because we cannot understand. It's beyond our perception. That we want to understand, he was not, we can relate to him. He was a sadhana siddha. He associated the devotees, he became attached to Krishna, he executed the devotional service as per the instructions. He did same like us. He's a sadhana siddhi. He processed, prepared, he did the portion of devotion service in the way in which we are trying to do also. But he perfected it. And he became a perfect transcendental spaceman because he simplicity obeyed the instruction of the spiritual master. We are going to discuss that how he attained the process. That is nicely mentioned in the step by step. We will discuss that. Now here, um, um, so here, and also we can see Prabhupada. Prabhupada is such a pure devotee of the Lord that his transcendental Leela is also non different from Krishna. And there is a nice pastime. Giriraj Maharaj, disciple of Prabhupada, was sharing one incident. What has happened that when he first came in San Francisco and he had the association of Prabhupada and he met Prabhupada, and then he was about to ask a question that about to ask a question, and Prabhupada could understand what is in his mind. He said that, then immediately Prabhupada asked him, seeing through him, because he's a transcendental person, Prabhupada. He says, do you want to become God or do you want to become a son of God? The moment he heard that, Giriraj Maharaj was shattered into pieces because in his core of his heart, he was thinking, I want to become God. But Prabhupada could understand that he should become a servant of God. And Prabhupada said that I prayed to Krishna intensively that he become a servant of God. And the next time when Prabhupada met him and then he became a devotee, he said that Prabhupada prayed because he's a transcendental person. He prayed to Krishna that I should become a devotee of the Lord. I became a devotee. Otherwise, it is not. Therefore, so here, the first point in the purport is the process of devotional activities beginning from the stage of to the strands of the parampara is only the process of devotional activities from the beginning to the stage of transcendence. So that is the from Shraddha to what we call Prema is duly explained to satisfy the inquiries of Vyasadeva. Because the whole pastime of Narada Muni, his own self-realization, his own perfection of the in the sadhana siddhi, he is just explaining him so that he can take some clue and get pacified. That's what he says. No, you become pacified. All this will be, conduce you for your personal satisfaction, so that he can do the devotion service nicely because it's the bhakti avesha, because it's the perfection in the devotion service. So now Narada Muni explained how the seeds are devotion service. First, in order to have, first he says how they gradually develop by hearing the sages. So he first quality was hearing from the sages. How to hear, it is very important. There are 5 elements which is required, ingredients. When we are hearing from anybody, it doesn't matter who is speaking in the class, 5 elements are required. It is called SHEAR. It is an acronym. SHEAR. I will write it here so that you can understand it. Yes, SHEAR. Cheer means, yes means first we have to be submissive. Whenever we are hearing the class, who is speaking is not a criteria, whether the sannyasi or anybody. In order to have the association of the real association of the devotees, satam prasangam, and therefore it converts us from material concept to spiritual concept. It is possible only if we have the 5 things elements. First, we have to be submissive in our hearing. Whoever is speaking, it doesn't matter. And then we have to be humble. Then that is also very important. Submissive in hearing, humble in hearing, and eagerness. We should have the eagerness to come to every day to hear this. And then next is we should appreciate the person who is speaking Bhagavatam. It is very important. Then appreciation is that means and gratitude the person who is giving the Bhagavatam. And if you don't show the gratitude, then Krishna is not pleased. The gratitude is very important. And that gratitude in the form of appreciation. We have appreciation different from glories. We are not glorifying the person. We are just appreciating. Appreciating and glories are different. Glories means Prabhuji, Haribol, 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 and all. No, that is not a glorification. Prabhu, thank you very much. I will just meditate on this verse. Thank you very much for this nice class. I will meditate and I will try to apply in our life. This is the appreciative. But doesn't mean that the Prabhuji ki jai, Ram Charan Prabhuji ki jai, Anu Prabhuji ki jai, jai, jai. Just glorification is only for Krishna. Jaya is only for Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhav. Radha and Madhav only. Nothing to know. No, no, no. It's not for anybody else. So that we have to understand. And then respect to the preacher. We have to respect to the preacher. These ingredients are very, very important. And then you can see that he was having all the qualities. More Narada Muni. Uninterrupted attention. Akshalita Matihi. Vishrunmata, continuous hearing he was constantly. Anushavam, constantly he was hearing. And then Yasha Amalam, unadulterated from the pure devotees. And Bhakti was growing like anything. And if you do that, it will automatically appear. And that's sheer. The sheer means, for example, if you want to, the material attachment within our body can be sheared. Sheared means we can remove it. In the engine shear, they say, engine shear means it is completely gone. So when we shear, then what will happen? All the material dirties go and we get attached to Krishna. And the material detachment comes, material attachment is shared by this process of these five things. We have to understand. Because of this Bhakti Prahutatma, he was able to Anurakta. Anurakta means he was constantly attached. And then Prasishya, he was obedient and also freed from all sins. Shad and the faithful. And then Anucharasya, strictly following the instructions of the spiritual master. The result of that pure devotion service, because he followed the principles of obedience, submissiveness, and then attentive hearing, always observed, attracted towards the Krishna consciousness. All this impelled in and propelled him to get detachment from the material things. The more we attach to Krishna, the more we get detached from the material things. Therefore, the more we attach to the Bhagavatam, the more we get detached from material. Presently, we are getting detached from the material things. All of us are absorbed in Krishna consciousness. So please try in this direction. This is very important. So this is the best way to get. And then next is that sincere devotee, Prabhupada writes in the purport, decides to go back to Goa, therefore willing to accept the Lord merciful punishment. And then he accepted the Lord merciful punishment and continues to offer respects, obeisance with his heart, words, and body. So what has happened in the result of such hearing, detachment came to him, and the death news of his mother was taken as a blessing. Prabhupada writes, a sincere devotee desired in 1014.8, desired to go back home. Therefore, he willingly accepts. That means we have to accept the tribulation. It is not easy to accept the tribulation, but we have to endure. You should pray to Krishna, please give me the strength to accept this tribulation. It is not a comfortable question for me. Please pray, Krishna, Krishna, please give me the strength to withstand this tribulation. Please make my mind to accept this tribulation as a mercy of the Lord. And that's what he looked, his mother's death as a mercy of the Lord. And therefore, then once it happens, once the detachment came to him, the attachment to Krishna happened. Automatically, what has happened? He was looking for the search of the Lord. And therefore, he took the opportunity. And therefore, every situation, bad situation, should give us an opportunity to render more devotional service. That's what Kunti Maharani says. Vibhatu satada santu satvat, tatra tada jagat guru. Bhavato darshanam yasya, apunarva darshanam. The more we go to Krishna, then we don't have to take birth in this material world. So the more difficulty we have, we will go to Krishna more. The more we go to Krishna, the more we are detached from material things. This is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. That's why we should see the mercy, opportunity to serve the Lord. And that is what is very important. So this is very important. And then next was, he was sincere Hajj in the purport. I'm talking about 1636 purport. Sincere Hajj for having an interview with the Lord was also granted to him. For it's not possible to see anyone with the Lord. He was given an audience because he was following the instructions. He was attached to the devotees. He was completely detached from the material things, and he has a sincere desire. And he took the opportunity to search out on the Lord. So he took that miserable opportunities, that unfavorable circumstances as an impetus towards the Lord, and that was his impetus to go towards the Lord. And because he was sincere urge, the sincere urge, it is very very important. Sincerity is very important. Now, bhakti, whatever we do, we have to have the sincere urge that I want to go back. But actually, frankly speaking, we don't have the urge. We have contamination in our heart. We have the Krishna, you make this life comfortable, this position comfortable, this my material position comfortable, my office job comfortable, my wife position comfortable, my wife pain is relieved, my office problem is solved, my boss problem is solved. Let me relieve, let the boss get out. So all these things are in our mind, and therefore our attachment is not sincere, and therefore the sincerity is not there. There is no revealing of the Lord, and then we are not able to experience Krishna. We may not have the darshan like Narada Muni, because we are not in the pure transcendental state. But we are not able to have the darshan. We are not able to taste the chanting. The best part of the interview with the Lord means the moment we have 16 rounds, we have to increase more rounds. That is the real taste. And that is what we have to understand. So this is very important for us to understand. To increase the chanting, we should have the sincere urge. Krishna, I want to come back to you in this lifetime. So this is to be our sincere urge. And also, he explained how by execution of pure devotional service, he also was able to get rid of all the fruiting matter. That means we should leave that today I do the chanting, today I read Bhagavatam, immediately I become a pure devotee of the Lord. No, it will not happen. And that's what we are going to see in the next verse. Krishna is not an order supplier. Even in bhakti also, he is not an order supplier. He may wish on his own accord. We will discuss that also. So we are going to discuss in the next verse. So it is very important. So Narada Muni doesn't have any motive. He was transcendentally engaged in the service of the transcendental loving service means without any motive. Ahaituki apratiyaka. Without any breakage. So then he was able to get the spiritual body alone, able to enter the spiritual realm, and no one but a pure devotee is eligible. So he was able to get when he what he did, he had the darshan of the Lord, and the Lord disappeared. And then what has happened? He was desperate to see the Lord again. Mechanically, he couldn't see. And then Krishna appeared and told him that Avipakwa, you are immature in the devotion service. And then what has happened? Then immediately, don't worry. But since you have engaged, I have increased your hankering for seeing me. And therefore, what he said in 1624, you intelligent engagement, my devotion cannot be thwarted at any time. So you will continue by my causeless mercy. And then he says, with the gratitude, then he falls at the feet of feels the gratitude. He says, Yetavadutto Paranama Tarmavad Bhutam Nabolingam Alingam Ishwaram. Akam Chadasme Magatam Majya Shishnavananam. Then that supreme authority, personified by sound, unseen by eyes, stops speaking. Feeling a sense of gratitude, he paid his obeisances. And then the next verse is very important. How we did execute that. He says, took the mercy that Krishna darshan is not there, also doesn't matter to him. Bhakti means he has to do engage in the devotion service. Namani Andasya Kyani Patrani Gitani Smaran. Tampari Atantustamana Gataspraha. Kalam Pradikshan Vimado Vivatsaraha. So all the mysteries of the transcendental realization are duly experienced by Nandamuni, and therefore hearing such an authority can have some idea of the results of devotional service. So this is what we understand, Namani Anantasya Atatatan, Mukyani Patrani Gatani Smaran. So what he was doing on this, after having the darshan of the Lord, with the second time darshan was not there, he didn't get frustrated. He said constantly recitation. That means we have to recite. These verses are to be recited, some important verses that just like we discussed, Antasmin Janmani Bhavan Mamam Drishtam Yarati. These verses has to be repeated again and again. Daily you repeat it. Every day you repeat one verse. It will be in your heart for lifetime. It will never go away. Because it will be Krishna's energy. Because transcendental verses, this will go and stick to the Atma and it will never be deleted. So you repeated recitation and ignoring the formalities of material world, constantly remembering and chanting. Now we will see the repeated recitation. This verse can be recited 10 times. You can recite all the verses, some important verses on the Bhagavatam. You can repeat Namani Anantasya Atatatapatam. This is very important. You can recite as many times as you want, and that will purify. So here you see how we attain the transcendental stage, because he was completely absorbed. And then repeated recitation. He was chanting the same name, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Repeated recitation of the verses. Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, especially 12th chapter and 15th chapter, can be recited every day on the Bhagavad Gita. It's a simple chapter, very easy. 12th chapter will take you hardly 3 minutes, and 15th chapter will take you 3 minutes. 12th chapter, 15th chapter will take you 6 minutes. The whole 2 chapters of Bhagavad Gita will be in your heart for lifetime. Nobody can take it from you. Please, Prabhuji's mother. Please do it, because constant repeated recitation means we are absorbed in Krishna. Because the moment we recite Bhagavad Gita, we are reciting mantra from Krishna. Okay, we do the chanting. Definitely, we have to do the chanting. So, for a transcendental varietiness, we should have this recitation of Bhagavad Gita. This is very important, and that's why this constant recitation is there. Because we have to memorize these verses, we have to understand these verses, and that is very important for us to go back to Krishna. So, it is very, very important. Please do this recitation, 12th chapter, 15th chapter. Simple verses, seed verses of Bhagavad Gita. Aham sarvasya pravo mattas sarvam pravartate iri matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samvita. I am the source of all material and spiritual world. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotion service and worship me with all their hearts. So beautiful. The statement, translation, everything should be memorized. Please, Prabhuji's and Mataji's. And that's what Prabhupada has written. And I will tell you about Prabhupada, very important, And it's very important. So, association of the devotees, the best association we can have is Prabhupada's books. Yeah, best association. He can purify our consciousness. Every day we can have appointment with Prabhupada. Prabhupada is a pure devotee. You open the Bhagavad Gita, you open the Bhagavatam, you come to Chaitanya Chaitamatam, you open the nectar of instruction, you open the nectar of devotion. Prabhupada is talking to you. You are having a pure devotee association. How you can miss this association? Prabhuji and Mataji, please don't miss this association. We'll discuss about it later. So, and then he says ignoring. Atattatarpatan means he was ignoring the material formalities. Material formalities means nothing will affect you. I will tell you a classic example of Prabhupada. Prabhupada was traveling from US to India. It was 14 hours journey, He came and landed in Delhi. And then he went to Vrindavan for 3 hours. And then he went to the Vrindavan. And then it was 1 o'clock in the night. And next day morning, 4:30, he was there up for the Mangalarti. And then 7:30, he called all his disciples. Some of the disciples will come from there. Let us go for a morning walk. Because the doctor advised him that he has to walk every day. So the doctor told him that you have to walk every day. So he said, let us go for a morning walk. Then all the disciples, 50% of the disciples did not come for Mangalarti. And then they were sleeping, snoring. And then they go, Prabhupada, there is a word called jet lag. Do you know what is meant by jet lag? Because you are in night time in US, in the daytime in India. So because of that, the jet lag, the sleeping tendencies will come, and we cannot travel like this. It's not possible. And they were sleeping. And the same thing happened in New Zealand also. He was sleeping. Prabhupada said, I will walk. Because he ignored the material formalities, because he was a transcendental spaceman. Narada Muni and Prabhupada is non-different. Because Prabhupada followed 100%. Narada Muni's each and every word, he took it in his heart. He took the heart of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, and Narada Muni's each and every instruction, he took it to his heart. And that's why he was a transcendental spaceman. And then he was not affected, ignored the material formalities. And therefore, it is very important. And there are also one more thing. Actually, one time, we were traveling in train with our Maharaj, Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj. Maharaj, it was 2 days, the trip. The next day morning, Mangalarti, 4:30, Maharaj woke up at 3:30, and then he went to the toilet. He was not well, and he was having a hunchback, and he was asthma problem and all. He went to the toilet. He went for the toilet, and he washed his face, and he had the brushed the teeth, and he came back, and then he started 4:30. Let us have the kartals and start the Mangalarti. 4:30 in the train, without bath, without doing anything, without any altar. He had a small photo of Krishna. Let us do Mangalarti. 4:30 in the morning, Mangalarti. So this is ignoring the material formalities. So we have to understand Mangalarti is to be done at any time. Mangalarti is to be done at any cost. It doesn't matter. That has to be done because Mangalarti is the time. Appointment with Krishna, 4:30. Maharaj says by 6:30, Krishna leaves for Vrindavan. He is not there at the home. He goes out for the Vrindavan to take care of the cows. So we have to catch him before 4:30 and 6. So please catch him. And that's why we are chanting the holy names. And that's why this Mangalarti is there. And then he ignored the material formalities. And that's what Prabhupada also did. Prabhupada ignored all the material because nothing affected him. The material things doesn't affect the pure devotees of the Lord. And that's why we should be able to control our senses and hunger. And then we should not take anything in the morning till we finish the Mangalarti, Tulsi Arti and all. We don't take anything. And in fact, when we go to Rajkot, we will get prasadam only at 11 o'clock. Morning to evening, we are only fasting. So it is an austerity we have to do. And that's why I used to think, why I'm going to Rajkot? I think twice before I go to Rajkot. But that is an austerity which should be done because we have to control the senses. And this is very important. Ignoring the material format. Format means our पेट का पूजा बोलते हैं ना पेट का पूजा करते हैं पेट का पूजा करते हैं please don't do पेट का पूजा it is very important so ignoring the formalities of the material and that's because he was completely absorbed etat chit atmakam he was completely absorbed his body was not material and Prabhupada doesn't have any jet lag at all he doesn't know what is meant by jet lag he doesn't understand so this is what we have to do and then he was satisfied means any condition we should be satisfied in the devotional service so that we can influence other living entities to Krishna consciousness. If you are not satisfied, if you are unsatisfied, you can never be happy in this material. So we have to be satisfied whatever situation Krishna has processed. It should not be, it cannot be, it can be a worse situation because of our past karmas. We are not pure devotees. Pure devotees are exempted from karma, but we are not exempted from karma. So our karmas are chasing us all the time. So we should accept the situation. And then Prabhupada was this personally that 1/6 and this is how satisfaction, humble and unenvious. And what is the other qualities? He was Namani Anantasya, constantly remembering and chanting. He says, Namani Anantasya Adataputan, Mukyani Batrani Kitani Smaran, Tam Paryatam Tushtamana Gataspraha. Tushtamana means completely done with Gataspraha, without any desire. Alam prediction. He was waiting to have the darshan to get the material body to the transcendental body, from the material body of 5 elements, the transcendental body, because he was not expecting any fruitive results. He got the body, transcendental body, and that's why he become free. That's what we are going to discuss. So it is very important to get this spiritual body. We have to do. And then what he was saying, constantly remembering, he was humble, and then Vimado Vimatsara. Vimado means without any envy, without any ego, Vimatsara means without any envy. And because it is very important, because once we are envious, the envy is the root cause of making us dissatisfied. Because when we are envious of the other living entities, why this devotee? He is chanted only for 2 years, he is so opulent materially, whereas I am struggling for 20 years and I don't have money. Why? This type of things becomes envious. Because we don't have the gratitude what Krishna has given. And that's why I said the gratitude is very important. And acceptance, satisfaction is not there. When we are not satisfied with our present position, then we become envious of the other living entities. So satisfaction is a key thing in the shoe of satisfaction. Bhagavatam tells also there is a nice word, the shoe of satisfaction. Whenever we go out, we put the shoe. Then the shoe of satisfaction should always be worn by us all the time in our life. And that will give us become humble and unenvious. We become humble. And this is very important. So Vimado Vimatsara 1626. This 1626 has to be memorized. Please don't miss that verse whenever time permits. And then here in 1631, you can see Kansita Vritaha, unbroken vow. He has got two things. He was never, and therefore he was never unbroken vow means the moment we commit some activities on a day-to-day basis, we should not anytime, even if it is 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, we should commit, chant the holy names. We should see that the 16 rounds are chanted. Whatever rounds we committed, we should chant, and we should not deviate from it. Even if you want to recite 12th chapter, 15th chapter, or you want to recite some prayers, please commit that and do it at any cost. There will be so many material circumstances which will prevent you from doing it, but somehow determination will. And that is very important. Then next comes the very important verse. Etadri Aturicitanam Matas Paschachaye Muhu Bhavat Sindhu Plava Proshto Ari Charyanu Varnanam. He says, it is personally experienced by me that those who are full of cares and anxieties and due to desire. But what is the reason for our cares and anxieties? Because our contact with the senses, with the objects. Sense objects, Sparshanam, Grahanam, all this taste, all these things. Eyes wants to see, and then ear wants to see some good music. Then, if you put a nice music of Kumar, you see, then we want to get attracted towards it. So these type of attractions are there. Old songs of Kishore Kumar are very attractive, You're all Delhi wala, you know very well. So Delhi devotees, you know very well. So these songs are so attractive, we will get attracted towards it. So instead of that, that's what direct desiring the contact senses with their objects can cross open the ocean of reasons must on a most suitable boat. What is the suitable boat? Constant chanting of the transcendental activities. The constant is very important, and therefore there is a nice story in this connection. So what has happened? One time, King Akbar was going on the street, and one day he was crossing through the desert, and then one he was seeing one person was just digging the desert, and then he was finding some gold articles, and then he was taking it. Then Akbar asked, "What are you doing?" He says that I am looking for gold ornaments, which is in the sand because it's mixed with the sand, so I can take that and sell it and make money. And then he says, he was struggling so much. And how many years you're doing? I'm doing for the last so many 10 years. I get little gold, 1 gram, 2 gram, 3 gram, doesn't matter. Then, then Akbar said, I got about 40. I got 40 sovereigns of gold in my necklace, in my neck. So let me put this on the desert so that you'll be happy and you will not endeavor for anything. So he put that on the street and went back. And then after 1 week, he came back to see what he was doing. Again, he was struggling for searching for some gold from the sand. Then he says, "Why are you doing? I gave you a big chocolate with 40 sovereigns. It's about 40 to 320 grams of gold. That should be more than enough for you to sustain. Why are you wasting your time?" He said, "No, I will get something better. I will be constantly endeavoring." And therefore, this constant endeavoring in the devotional service, we should never be satisfied that I have chanted 16 rounds, chant 16 rounds and be happy. No, we should never become happy. We should increase, the ruchi should increase, taste for increasing. The taste for increasing will come unless we are detached from the material sense objects. And that's what he says. And because the material sense objects are there, that is giving us always anxiety. What is that? Aturam Chittana. Aturam Chittana means our minds are always full of cares and anxieties. So this is very important for us to understand, to execute bhakti nicely. And then very important was to meditate. So it is very important, and you have to so this is very important on this. Constantly means to stand firm. Stira means we always expect and appreciate. And also we see Constantly, every day, this program is being arranged by these people. In spite of so many difficulties, this Sham Charan Prabhu, Anand Prabhu is arranging this program. Is constancy, we like it. And therefore, we want a constancy in everything. We want a constant remuneration. We want a constant job. We want a constant everything. And we want everyone else to be constant. But we don't want to be constant. So this is our defect. So we have to be constant in our approach in the devotional service and our service to the devotees. If you do that, and everyone will love you. And this word is very important. So this is very important for us. And one thing which you understand is when you're doing the constancy, there will be a lot of storms. Lot of storms means lot of uh, uh, obstructions will come in this, the constancy. When we do everyday Bhagavatam, this 6 months they have done this, more than 6 months they are continuing. There's so much challenges. There may be technical challenges, there may be WebEx challenge, there may be devotees challenges, so many challenges. But in spite of that, they are doing this program is exemplary. It is not possible. This constancy is attracting you to come to this program. So this constancy should be there always in our bhakti. And therefore, we should not say one day I'll chant with full attention. One day, forget about chanting 60 rounds full attention. But at least one round you can chant, that is very good. Or at least 4 or 5 malas we can chant is very good. Because the mind wanders. Because the mind wanders and always hankering for sense gratification. So it is very important. So what are all the things which are obstructions which will come? First is our laziness. Laziness means we want to sleep. 4:30 we don't want to wake up. And the lack of faith. We lose faith. Suppose some things which happen which we don't want to happen, we lose faith. Lack of discipline and complacency. Complacency means we become negligent, and then unsuitable environment means situations are not difficulty in getting along with people because we have to get along with the 15 devotees. It's not so easy because each mind is different. Each mind is different. Two minds, husband and wife, is itself difficult. It's a Kurukshetra in the home. Imagine 15 devotees to coordinate and do the bhakti. Because the ultimate objective is to please Krishna. Ultimate objective is not to please anybody, not to please any of you. The ultimate objective of this program is to please Krishna and Guru. That's all. Guru and Krishna only. Guru and pleasing satisfaction of Krishna. And that is our objective. That is the bottom line. So that we have to understand. Now we'll go to 167. So here, how we got it? Because he achieved complete freedom. The next verse it says, he complete freedom because he got rid of the following things. So he got, because he complete freedom from this material world, we will list down some points. How he achieved, Narada Muni, achieved this transcendental spacement, we will see what are the things. What he was doing, constant repeated recitation, constant chanting and remembering the holy names, and the verses of the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, ignoring the material formalities, and then fully satisfied and humble, unenvious, unbroken vow, and then constant, free from fruity work and detachment even from his own mother, and who he was completely dependent. So, constant repeated recitation, constant chanting and remembering, ignoring the material formalities, fully satisfied, humble, unenvious, unbroken vow. That means we should not break this. This class should not be broken at any time. Some or other it should continue. And that's why you can see some devotee did not come up for the class yesterday. They called me at 6:30. Anu Prabhu called me and he wants to have the program. This is the unbroken vow. And this determination of Sajjan Prabhu, please call Sajjan Priya whether he can take the class tomorrow. Please take him. I was very reluctant to take, but I decided it is an opportunity given by Krishna. If it is a challenge for me to prepare within 1 hour, because I'm not Krishna conscious. I'm struggling in Krishna conscious. I'm worse than all of you. So I'm still struggling to understand what is the devotion service. So how can I prepare? My mind is absorbed in material things. How can I prepare within 1.5 hours? 6:30 means within 1.5 hours, 9 o'clock I have to prepare. And also I have to chant some. So I have to finish my Bhagavad Gita recitation also. So I've got some other commitments also there. So I think how I'm going to do it. It was a challenge for me, big challenge for me. So, and then I have to do my daily quota of reading also. So how can I do it? How can I prepare for the class? And class requires means deliberation, complete absorption in that verse. I have to meditate on this verse. Simply I cannot speak. Because to speak 45 minutes, I have to prepare for 2.5 hours, 3 hours. Otherwise, I cannot speak on this. This is a very transcendental subject matter. Because I'm absorbed in material sense gratification, it is not possible for me. So I was thinking how to do it. So I was hesitation immediately. And then I gave him he called me around 5 o'clock. And then at 6:30, I told him, let me try. Then I prepared for 1 hour and I started preparing. and I took it 2 to 3 or 2 hours, but it's purifying me because you have given me the opportunity to read Bhagavatam intensively. So this is an opportunity given to me. And then you were constant. This is the ore of constancy. Athuram. So much disturbance were there. Some Mataji refused. Doesn't matter. But the class has to go on. Please, anytime you have problems, you call me one day before. At least give me 3 4 hours for me to prepare. I will take the class. Because this is purifying me and your constancy will be maintained. And this is very important. So this constancy in devotion service is very, very important. Never ever. Because this you are going to liberate all the 15 people who are assembled here. They are going to be liberated eventually. Because this constancy, Krishna is watching from above. This constancy is being watched by Gopal Krishna Maharaj now. So it is being reviewed and they know what you are doing. So they know your heart in and out. And this being watched because now we are speaking about Narada Muni and Vyasa Bhagavan. Both are listening to this class. You may not see from a material point of view, but spiritual point of view, they are sitting and watching. Somebody is discussing about me. Let me go and hear. Narada Muni is there to hear because it is bhakti. It is purifying him also. He says, I'm hearing about my own pastimes. It is purifying me. He says, I'm such and so rascal that I don't have any purification, that I'll come and hear for the purification. Imagine Narada Muni is coming and hearing. Prabhupada said one time, I was speaking to 4 or 5 people who were there. Nobody was there. Prabhupada said, did you see Narada Muni? Did you see Vyasa Bhagavan? Both were sitting in the class. So now, for them, Prabhupada pure devotee came. I'm telling you, Narada Muni is also his enemy. Doesn't come to my place because I'm such a contaminated soul. It not come. But I'm telling you how much blissful, how the spiritual master and Krishna is pleased. Krishna is watching this actually. Wherever Krishna Katha is there, Krishna is there. So that's what we have to understand. So then the first point is his constant and detachment even from his own mother, whom we must. So this is what we have to understand. Therefore, because of this, he left the material body, he got the transcendental body without any social mentality. He became a transcendental spaceman. And that's why he is called Narada Muni, the transcendental spaceman of Krishna consciousness and Bhakti Avesha Avatar. And now we will go into the next verse. So here, in the next verse, it talks about the freedom and why we are bondage. There is a nice verse in the Bhagavatam 10:14:36. It says that Brahma is telling that very nicely. He's telling why we are not free. The next verse talks about freedom. The Narada Muni can go to Swargaloka, go to Patal Loka, can go to any Loka, can go even to Taman like Kamsa, he can go to Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, anybody he can go because he's accessible, because he's transcendental spaceman. He's a pure devotee of the Lord. Bhakti Avesh Avatar. So, but however, we are so much conditioned, and that's why it's free. But in our case, we are not free. Why? Because Tavad Raka Dayanas Stenas, it is written, mentioned nicely, 10:14:36. Tavad Kara Graham, Tavad Mahu Angri Nigado, Yavad Krishna Nate Janaha. It says, until people become your devotees, their material attachments, we are not free. Like Narada Muni is not shackled by anything. But in our case, we have got 3 things. What is that? Their material attachments and desires. Our material attachments, they become thieves. So because of a thief, what will happen to a thief? They'll put him in jail. And where is the jail? Their homes is the jail. Their home is the prison. And then their affectionate feelings for their family and members are their foot shackles. So what we have done, we are, because of our material desires and our material attachments, we become thieves. Once you become a thief of, then because all this material attachment doesn't belong to us, nothing belongs to us, everything belongs to Krishna. And therefore, once you become a thief, what happens? Brahma was thinking, I am the controller of everything. So he called all the Gopas and put them in the Satyaloka. He put them there in his planet. He put them, hide them there. He was thinking of king. He was stealing, but he understood that because of my own material desire, that I will become the powerful. I did this, and then he understood, and then he prayed to Krishna. He asked for forgiveness, and then he's praying, and then he says, material desires and attachments are like thieves, and because we are thieves, we are put in Karagraham. We are put in the prison house of our material homes. And then what has happened? Our affection towards the bodily affection towards our wife, children, and all these are all the foot shackles. That means we are tied with shackles and we cannot come. And therefore, we are not free. And that's why Prabhupada talks about the freedom. We are not free. But actually, originally, the devotee, the living entity is completely free. So conditions flow free from one place to another, even on this earth. Whereas we cannot move from one place to another. Prabhupada writes in the purport. Why? Now, because of this corona, we cannot move from one place to another. I cannot move from here to Abu Dhabi, or I cannot move to Delhi. I cannot move to Bangalore because corona is there. So we cannot move because we are conditioned by this body. Dehi and Vivarsha. Vivarsha means Idurchya. This pandemic has come. And then, similarly, the transcendental devotional service is free. It may or may not develop in a particular person, even if he undergoes all the detailed formats. We may do all this. Bhakti is free. Krishna is given bhakti is free for everybody. There is no condition. But there is a condition. Condition is that we should be ready to do without any motive. And we cannot demand. We should not put the condition to Krishna. Bhakti is free, completely free. But we cannot put the condition. I am doing Mangalarti for so many years, then Krishna should come and appear in me and satisfy all my material desires. No, that is not. We cannot expect it. Krishna is not water supply. Please, Prabhuji. That's why Prabhupada writes. He may or may not develop. We may not get the bhakti also. I am practicing for the last 20 years. Still, I am not having bhakti. I don't have any attraction for Krishna. I don't have any attraction for the holy names. I'm still struggling with that. So that means we may do so many years, but I am not a pure devotee. I should not talk about it. I'm not a devotee at all. I'm struggling to become a devotee. So, but bhakti, the seed of love of bhakti is given by Krishna by his own mercy, and he chooses that. And we cannot demand, we cannot put a condition to Krishna. So that's why we should be very free. And then next is similarly, the association of devotees is also free. We are very free to associate with Prabhupada books, as I told you before. So Prabhupada books, anytime we can associate. So Prabhupada will speak to you. Prabhupada will pop up through the Bhagavatam verses. He's popping through these purports now. He's popping to you now. He's speaking through me. Prabhupada is speaking. I'm not speaking. I'm taking his purport and talking to you based on that. Based on that, I'm speaking. I don't have anything on my own. His realization, I'm speaking. So I'm getting that. If I take the credit, oh, such a rascal I am. Okay? So all the credit should go to Prabhupada. So we are free to associate with Prabhupada. And even after thousands of endeavors, we may not get this association. So we may not get the human body. So please, you don't know. And then main point is, therefore, in all spheres of devotional service, freedom is the main purpose. Without freedom, there is no execution. In devotional service, we are completely free. Means we don't have any of the format. And that's why Prabhupada was completely free. Because he was dedicated to the lotus feet of his spiritual master. So that means we are not bodily, we don't have any. So when we will be free, when we will be free, we are when we do the pure devotion service without any motivation, without any fruitive mentality, without any expectation, bhakti will come, then we will become free from the following things. What are all the things? Bodily consumption. We will realize we are soul. And then that means we ignore the material formalities. We don't want food all the time. We are not hankering. Food will come. We have to take food, but we are not hankering for it. We should be able to control our tongues. Dissatisfaction. You are completely satisfied in all circumstances. Whether you get chal sabji, chapati sabji or chapati dal, doesn't matter. Chapati milega, sabji nahi milega, dal nahi milega, problem nahi. Still chapati ठीक है. False ego. There is no false ego at all. We are free from false ego. We are free from enviousness. We are free from fruitive results. We are free from material reaction or restriction or condition. And then there is no lethargy. There is no complacency. And then we are not disorganized in our life. Sincere urge, our sincere urge to enjoy sense gratification is also free. We have the sincere urge to serve the Lord. And this freedom, and therefore Prabhupada writes, the freedom surrendered to the Lord, the last point, the freedom surrendered to the Lord, does not mean that the devotee becomes independent in every respect. We have to become dependent on Krishna. I will tell you a small example, crude example I will share with you that we used to have, me and my wife, when we were traveling, suppose from one place from Abu Dhabi to India, what I will do is I will give the passports, tickets, and everything to her. Okay. And then she will be looking after the passport and tickets. In my case, I'll be completely dependent on her on the passports to maintain. She has to maintain and she will take care of that. And then what I will do is dealing with the immigration, dealing with this, I will tackle. If there is any problem, the tickets. One time, what happened? We boarded the plane because we are having airlines. We go with concession tickets. Sometimes they take you, even if you sit in the seat of the airplane, they can remove you because they want to accommodate a revenue passenger. They can remove the staff passenger. So they have the right to do it. So what has happened one time? So she is always afraid to travel in the flight because whether she will be asked to get out or not. So when she travels alone, she is fearful. When she travels with me, she becomes completely dependent. So what has happened? She said, "Now flying is not a problem. You will take care, and then I will have the dependent that she will take care of the passports. So I'm not worried about the passport. She's not worried about the trip. So this is we'll stop here. So sorry, Prabhu, just 1 minute. I'll finish. So this is how we become completely dependent on Guru and Krishna, and Prabhupada was completely dependent on his Guru and his instructions. And therefore, what has happened? Because from 40 rupees to $40 billion, $40 billion all came because he was completely dependent on Krishna and his spiritual master. Therefore, we should become completely dependent, the transparent medium of spiritual master and depend his mercy. Nothing else is required. We become free from this material world and we become free from the material format. Hare Krishna. Dhanavad. Sorry for taking some extra time. Please forgive me for that.
No
Any
problem,
questions?
Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful session, Prabhuji. Any devotee has some questions can ask or they can type in the comment box as well. So in case no devotee has any question, we can continue. And I think we missed the Damodar Ashtakam in the beginning. So I have a video in the YouTube which is just for 5 minutes. The Damodar Ashtakam. I'll play that. All right. So this is the text of Damodar Ashtakam and the YouTube link. I'll just share. Uh, before Damodar Ashtakam, let's do the Vaishnav Pranam. Vacha Kalpatru Bhascha Kripa Sindhuvya Evcha Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Ananta
Namo.
Kodi Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Anant
Thank
Koti
you very much.
Vaishnav Vrinda Jai.
Thank you for sorry for the time, Prabhu. Sorry. Didn't see the time.
No
Please
problem.
forgive me. I'll try to